Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today is our 18th lesson on Al-Qawl al-Mufid, the explanation of Kitaab At-Tawheed by Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah. Chapter 12, page 38. From shirk is vowing to other than Allah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil mursaleen. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. وعلى من تبع هداهم إلى يوم الدين. Indeed, all praises to Allah, and may peace and blessing be upon His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. The chapter title is From the Shirk is to make the Nadhr to other than Allah. From the Shirk, the author, he means by that from the Shirk al-Akbar. So what is meant here from this title, from the Shirk, means from the major shirk. And making a shirk akbar is something that would take the person outside the fold of Islam. What is he talking about now? An-nadru li ghayrillah. That is to vow to other than Allah. And this is different from vowing in Allah but in a sin, which we have talked about the week before when we said vowing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yet it is in a sin. So the person vows to Allah Azza wa Jal that he will do something which is haram. Like he will vow, for example, to kill someone unlawfully. And that vow, we said, it is haram, but it is for the sake of Allah. It is in Allah. You vow to Allah. And we said you're not supposed to do it, but is there an expiation? Yes, there is an expiation. This one, no, you're saying a vow to someone else, whether this person is alive or this person is dead. This vow, you could see it so many times in the Sufi methodology. People, they make vows to Sidi al-Badawi, vow to Al-Jilani, all of those vows to people who are dead. And this vow to these people is haram, and on top of that is shirk akbar. And it's equivalent to make an oath by other than Allah Azza wa Jal. But making an oath by other than Allah, it could be shirk akbar, it could be shirk asghar, depending upon the person who is making the oath by other than Allah. So if he makes the oath other than Allah, making Allah equals to His creation, then this oath is to be shirk akbar. But if he made it by other than Allah, and he knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator, but he made that type of oath, then it is shirk asghar. In general, I'm asking, making an oath by other than Allah, is it shirk akbar or shirk asghar? In general, put your finger up here. Yes? Shirk asghar, very good. In general, when a person makes an oath by other than Allah, it's shirk asghar. But it could be akbar. It could be akbar if the person, he has made this oath to other than Allah, believing that other than Allah is equal to what? To Allah, or even bigger than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As for the making the nadr, is the opposite. When we say making the nadr to other than Allah, then it is shirk akbar. Okay, it is not shirk asghar, it is shirk akbar. And this is what the author had made here from the shirk, that means from the shirk al-akbar, and nadr li ghayrillah. And it's exactly the same thing when the person, he makes an oath by Al-Lat wal-Uzza. Does this person fulfill his oath, number one? No. Has he got to expiate for that oath? Please, flip it up. Yes or no? What do you think? No. Correct. So if you made an oath by Allah in a sin, you expiate. And if you don't do it, you don't have to do it, you're not allowed to do it. But if you made a vow, listen to me, if you made an oath, by other than Allah, and like making an oath by Al-Lat wal-Uzza, then this oath will not take place, you're not allowed to do it. Number two, there is no credential or credits for this guy that you're making an oath, it's nothing. So when you make an expiation, meaning what? You are making him something. So when the Prophet ﷺ said, he who makes an oath by Al-Lat wal-Uzza, let him say what? La ilaha illallah. There is no There's no such oath like that. La ilaha illallah. So, vowing by other than Allah is equivalent to making an oath by other than Allah when you mean someone is greater than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, when he said, it is better for me to make an oath by Allah while I'm lying, rather than to make an oath by other than Allah while I'm truthful. Because making an oath by other than Allah is shirk. Whether it's shirk akbar or shirk asghar, it is greater in sin than making an oath by Allah but lying. Because that making an oath by Allah and you're lying, it could be a major sin. But the major sin is less in evil than what? Minor shirk. Always shirk is greater than the major sin. Whether this shirk is akbar or asghar, it's always greater in sin than the sin, regardless whether it's minor or major. So the minor shirk is greater in sin than any major sin. So minor shirk is greater in sin than fornication, than stealing. Okay? Because there are major sins, the minor shirk. So the shirk could be included in the ayah, and Allah does not forgive someone makes shirk with him. Scholars, they said it's major, but Shaykh al-Islam said even minor. Yes, it will not be making you to be put into the hellfire for hell, forever, because you know that Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they believe that there are people who will be in the Jannah, straight away are the prophets, the angels, and there are people who will be in the hellfire, which is what? The disbelievers, the kuffar, and there are people who are from the sinners of the believers. They will go either they will go to paradise one day because of the will of Allah, or if they want to be punished, they'll be punished equal to what they have sinned, then be taken from the fire according to the iman in the heart and put where? In paradise. So, the person making another by other than Allah, to Jibreel alayhi salam, to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to all of those, it is major shirk. And it's not to be done, it's not to be fulfilled, and also on top of that, we are not allowed to make an expiation. Now, the author is going to bring us an ayah and a hadith. Let's go for the ayah.
In Surah Al-Insan, verse number 7, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and the translation of the verse in English, they fulfill their vows.
Surah Al-Insan, verse number 7. يوفون بالنذر. يوفون بالنذر. ويخافون يوما. إن الأبرار يشربون من كأس كان مزاجها كافورا. For the ayat which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about those people, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had praised them. Do you have any footnotes before I go ahead? No footnotes. Right. I'm sorry about this book which you have got. It's got so many gaps into it, so you need to fill it up. Yufuna bin nadr means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is praising them that they are fulfilling what they have vowed. Now, what does that got to do with this title? From the shirk is to vow by other than Allah. The link is that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised the people because they are fulfilling their vow, that means their vow is to what? To whom? To Allah. So the opposite from that is that Allah Azza wa Jalla will not be pleased with those who make a vow with other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is maybe a verse that could be more powerful if it's been brought in this chapter than this ayah, which is Surah Al-Hajj, verse 29. وَلْيُوفُوا نُذُورَهُم. This is a command from Allah Azza wa Jalla. Let them fulfill their nadr. وَلْيُوفُوا نُذُورَهُم. Second ayah, sorry, he brought two ayah and two verses and a hadith. Now, second ayah.
In Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 270, the translation in English, and whatever you spend for spendings is in sadaqah, the charity for Allah's cause, or whatever vow you make, be sure Allah knows it all.
Right. Also this ayah, the link of it with the chapter title is not really clear. but we have to really make sure that we understand. Whatever you spending on halal or haram. And whatever you make nadr, whether this nadr, whether it's not halal or haram, both, same thing. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ. Allah knows about it. Well, Allah knows about it. And this is a phrase we've been put there which is already known to us, isn't it? Allah knows everything. So why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse then, He puts after that whatever you spend from the spending, whether it's halal or haram, and whatever you make a vow, whether it's halal or haram, still Allah will know it, and it's already known to us, Allah knows it. The scholars, they said that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had put something like this, and He links it to Allah Azza wa Jal, so if you have linked the thing to the knowledge of Allah Azza wa Jal, then it is either a punishment or a reward. So either will punish you Allah Azza wa Jal if you did haram, if you have spent haram, if you have made a vow haram, or He would reward you if you did that halal. So that is what it means. So every time we attach or link something to the knowledge of Allah, then it means that this person either they're going to be rewarded for what he's done, or he's going to be punished for what he has done regarding, or in accordance with what he has spent or what he has vowed. Right, these two verses, as I said, link to the chapter title to say to us that the nadr has to be to Allah. If it's not to be to Allah, then it is from the shirk. Now, coming to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, hadith Aisha.
Allah's Messenger ﷺ said, whoever vows to obey Allah, then let him obey Him. And whoever vows to disobey Allah, then he should not disobey Him. And footnote.
Good.
This is a principle in Tawheed al-Ibadah, worship. So any action which is worship, then offering it to other than Allah is shirk. It is the opinion of many of the people of knowledge that vows that are not for other than Allah are prohibited, and this is the apparent view of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah due to the hadith. Vows do not bring about good and only force the miser to spend. Bukhari and Muslim.
This hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari, in Kitaab al-Iman wal-Nudhur, and from the authority of Aisha, the mother of the believers, the daughter of Abu Bakr. Prophet ﷺ, he had married her when she was 6, and he had intercourse with her when she was 9. She's the best of the wives of the Prophet of Allah, except for Khadija. Well, there's a difference among the scholars who is better. She died in the years 57 after Hijrah. Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, the Prophet ﷺ said, مَنْ نَذَرَ أَنْ يُطِيعَ اللَّهَ فَلْيُطِيعْ. This hadith we've discussed it as well in the chapter before, and in the explanation what I've done to the nadr, in thoroughly what I've done to the stages of the nadr. مَنْ نَذَرَ أَنْ يُطِيعَ اللَّهَ. He who had made a vow to obey Allah, then let him fulfill his nadr. So there is no such thing that the person has an option to drop his nadr. It's not like the oath. For verily the oath is that when you make an oath and you say you see something better than that oath, then you have to, if you want to cancel that oath and go to the upgraded oath, but you have to expiate. But in the vow, there is no such thing you upgrade. You have to fulfill the vow. So you made a vow, so I'm going to make it simple to you. Somebody said, by Allah, I'm going to go to, for example, to visit my, let's say my auntie. And then he said, no, the ticket spent to my auntie, I would spend it to go see my mother and my father. It's better for them. By Allah, I'm going to go now to so I'm not going to go to my auntie, I'm going to go to my mother and father. So I expiate for my oath to pay the ticket to go to my auntie, and I go to my father and my mother. But for the vow, if I vow to, by Allah, upon me a vow that I'm going to go to visit my auntie, I cannot just change that to to my father and mother. I will go home to my father and mother, but I have to fulfill my vow towards my auntie. That's the vow. The vow, you have to fulfill it. The only way you can't fulfill it, that's when it turns to an oath, an expiation oath. That is, if that vow is number one, masiyah, or this vow is above your capability. Person has made a vow that he's going to slaughter 100 camels, suddenly he got poor, and he can't produce 100 camels. Then, in this case, they would go to the expiation of the oath, but he cannot go to the expiation of the oath just to run away from the vow. The vow sticks to the person, and that's why another thaqeel, very heavy. And that's what the Prophet said, it will not bring good. But which type of nadar that does not bring good? Because we're going to discuss this inshallah. وَمَنْ نَذَرَ أَنْ يَعْصِيَ اللَّهِ, and he who has made a vow to disobey Allah, then let him not disobey Allah Azza wa Jal. Here, let him not disobey Allah Azza wa Jal with an expiation. You have to make an expiation, as we said the last time. Now, the scholars have differed regarding how can the nadr is to be ibadah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises those people who had fulfilled their vow, and yet Prophet ﷺ, in that hadith, it seems to be that it is what? Either disliked or prohibited. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith, we discussed it last week, we said, النذر لا يأتي بخير, it does not bring good. إنما يستخرج به من البخيل, but you bring out from the stingy. Now that phrase, you bring out from the stingy, links us to the opinion which says that the nadar is to two types. Nadar al-mutlaq, the nadar which is in general, a person making a nadar, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm going to slaughter a camel to the sake of you. And the nadar which we call it muqayyad or mu'allid, suspended nadar. A person is making a nadar, oh Lord, if you make my son or myself or my wife to be happy or to be cured or whatever, then, oh Lord, I will sacrifice for you such and such. Now this vow definitely links to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, because it says here that you extract from whom? From the person who's stingy. This person is so stingy in his ibadah that he will not do a ibadah until Allah rewards him for it. That's the stingy. That's why we say that this nadar, which is disliked, or even to some of the scholars is prohibited. Well, it's definitely prohibited if the person, he believes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to fulfill his dua unless he makes that vow. Or he makes Allah, if you're not going to cure my slave, I'm not going to give you that. If that is, it's haram. Definitely it's haram. So this is the type of the vow that you could really focus the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ on it, which the nadar does not bring good. But the nadar which is mutlaq, that it does not come under the karaha because it's a ibadah. Because it is what? A worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in general, we will say to the person, don't make a vow upon yourself in case you will not be able to what? To fulfill it. But making a vow, whether it is the beginning of starting, initiating the vow, or fulfilling the vow, it is still ibadah. Also, the second type, which is the prohibited one or the disliked one, still ibadah. When he has done it, we said it is disliked, yes, or it's haram. If you, oh Lord, cure my son, I will slaughter for you 50 camels. We said it is haram, or at least disliked. But still we have to what? Fulfill it. Fulfilling that from the ibadah. See? So fulfilling the second time is also ibadah. You're not supposed to say it, but when you say it, it will take place. So fulfilling it is ibadah. Expiation of your sin is ibadah. Expiation of that vow, which was in the sin of Allah, is also ibadah. So the vow in totality, whether it's a vow which is number one, which is the general, or the vow which is also suspended, or the vow which is in the sin of Allah, is all of it what? Ibadah. But in the sin of Allah, you're not allowed to do that. But when you repent to Allah, you're not supposed to do it, but you expiate. So the expiation of the vow, which is the sin of Allah, is also ibadah. So now we understand why that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had praised in a number of verses those people who had fulfilled their vow, Allah ta'ala a'lam. Now we come to the issues. Now, you haven't got the issue. Sorry. Okay, under a second. Issue number 1. وجوب الوفاء بالنذر. The obligation to fulfill the vow. The obligation to fulfill the vow, it means the vow which is in obedience, whether it is general or suspended. Whether it is general, that means a vow to slaughter a camel, or it's been suspended. Oh Lord, I'll slaughter the camel as long as if you cure my baby. Then this is also has to be fulfilled. So the obligation of fulfilling the vow. Second, if it is being confirmed, it is to be ibadah, then to take it to other than Allah, then it is shirk. And that's why the whole chapter is all about. Again, if this vow happens to be and be confirmed to be ibadah, then taking it to someone else is what? Shirk. And how can we derive from the text whether this is ibadah being set to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There are two ways, which is the general way, the al-am, that is any proof from the book or the sunnah where there is this ibadah, you have to single Allah alone subhanahu wa ta'ala in it, then this ibadah is not supposed to be targeted to anybody else. So this is, we call it the general proof. So any ibadah, every proof which is in the book and the sunnah, where there is the singling out of Allah in that ibadah, this makes this ibadah only solely to Allah, and it is not going to be accepted if it's being set to other than Allah Azza wa Jalla. So this is what we call the general proof. And the general proof here, that this nadr had proved itself to be to Allah. And the proof from the book, يُوفُونَ بِالنَّذْرِ وَلْيُوفُوا نُذُورَهُم. The verses, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he who doesn't make another, then let him fulfill it. So it is to Allah Azza wa Jalla. The second proof is that we call it the specific proofs. Specific with the dalil khas. That it comes to say that this particular ibadah, it has to be what? To Allah, nobody else. Like when we talked about slaughtering to other than Allah Azza wa Jalla. There are, for example, proofs which we have mentioned before, where it says that we have to slaughter to whom? To Allah. And also to make, what we're going to talk about, for example, istighatha, only by Allah. Isti'ana by Allah. So if there are specific proofs, then this ibadah also makes it solely to Allah and nobody else. By these two proofs, and we learn how we could really make an ibadah, which is not to be shared with anybody else, but only to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Right. Now, coming to the third one. Third one is linked to the first one. Third issue says, أن نذر المعصية لا يجوز الوفاء. The vow in the sin of Allah, that means in sinning against Allah, then you should not, it's not permissible to fulfill it. But you should what? Expiate it, as we have said. And this is the end of the chapter. We will now go to the following chapter. Now,
Chapter 13. From shirk is seeking refuge in other than Allah.
now.
Footnote number 39. The heading is not absolute because seeking.
Right, the heading again.
Chapter 13. From shirk is seeking refuge in other than Allah.
Seeking refuge in other than Allah. Right. From the shirk. It says from the shirk, because also making isti'adah in other than Allah has two, you could say, hukm. One which is the shirk that he's talking about, and one which is permissible. Isti'adah is the person who is seeking shelter. That means seeking protection. So if you're seeking protection from person who's dead definitely is what? Shirk. The brothers, can you just fill up the gap? The brothers, fill up the gaps, Ikhwan. But there's a gap. Shaitan will sit there, believe me. Don't leave the shaitan, type him up. Massive gap, subhanAllah. Right, the isti'adha means, I said, seeking shelter. And if you seek shelter if somebody's dead, that's definitely shirk. If you seek some shelter from someone who's alive yet is not capable of doing it, it's only for Allah, then it's also shirk. But if you're making, seeking shelter from someone who's capable of doing it and protecting you, as we're going to discuss some of the examples, then no problem, and it is halal. So here, the author is targeting the isti'adha, which is the seeking shelter, that the people of Quraysh used to do when they were mushrik, and also some of the Muslims these days, they are doing it, seeking shelter in somebody like Al-Badawi or Al-Jilani and all of that. So the author is bringing this chapter, which is very important, to shed light upon those people who are making this type of ibadah, which can be to Allah alone, or it could be not ibadah, it could be seeking shelter, like dunya-wise, from other people. Now, the ayah says, وَأَنَّهُ كَانَ رِجَالٌ مِنَ الْإِنسِ يَعُوذُونَ بِرِجَالٍ مِنَ الْجِنِّ فَزَادُوهُمْ رَهَقًا. Surah Al-Jinn, verse number 6. Can you just translate this?
Translation of the meaning in English. And verily, there were men among mankind who took refuge with the males among the jinn, but they, the jinn, increased them in sin and transgression.
Right. Can I ask, do you have any footnotes there before I start? Okay. Right, this is Surah Al-Jinn, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had talked about what the jinn used to do at the time of the pre-Islam. When the people of Quraysh, the people who are idolaters, used to come to a valley, they used to seek refuge in the master of the valley from the jinn, from, that is, to harm them. So they ask, na'udhu bi sayyidi hadha al-wali, we ask refuge from the master of this valley, that is, to protect us from his evil, or the ones who are not really good. So if you have like a head of a tribe, so you seek refuge in the head of the tribe from the other clan or from other people. Same thing, these people used to go and they seek refuge from the master of the valley, which they can't see. In this ayah, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that it is prohibited for men, that is from mankind, to seek refuge from or by the jinn, with the jinn, in any way or any form. It's not allowed. It is haram. And Allah said in this ayah, فَزَادُوهُمْ رَهَقًا, that these jinns, when it's in Tafsir ibn Kathir, he says that when these people used to come to the valley, all the jinn is scared. Just like the snakes and everything and all of us be scared for human beings. So you should be scared. But when they heard this man is saying, we seek refuge in the master, that means they understand the language. The Alhamdulillah, like, guys, these guys came to us. So, instead of leaving the valley, they stayed in the valley. These guys are scared of us. فَزَادُوهُمْ رَهَقًا. So they made them even more scared. So they started, for example, tampering with the stones and running with things, and they're making them really scared. And the jinn, they do physical things, as I said. And the jinn are a different type of creation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had created before Adam, but after the angels, because the angel witnessed what these jinn had done. And that is why when the Creator subhanahu wa ta'ala had created Adam, they asked Allah Azza wa Jal, "O Lord, What is the hikmah of creating something that might spread evil, corruption in the land and shed blood? Because they have seen what the jinn have done. So, and it talks about the ayat, but coming back to the jinn has been created, the source of them is from the top portion of the fire, smokeless. Just like the angels are made of light, just like we are made of mud, that doesn't mean that we are mud. Doesn't mean that the angel will come as like bulbs of light. It doesn't mean that the jinn will come with fire on his head. Okay, this is the original material from which he's been created. But how is creation after that? We know that we cannot see the fire, we can't see the jinn in the real form, unless they transform themselves to snakes or dogs or human beings. Other than that, we can't know if it's a jinn. Same thing, the angels, we don't see them. They could be sitting around us. But if they transform themselves into human being, then we could see them. And we're not allowed at the moment to see jinn. That means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited upon us. And there is no such thing that they could make something that makes me able to see jinn. And there is no such thing CCTV camera will catch up jinn. That's not right. But we know that the jinn topic is fascinating. And I'm going to go through it. I know that I'm going to finish the lecture on talking the jinn. Because you know that the jinn as well, men and women. The ayah says, وَنَوْ كَانَ رِجَالٌ مِنَ الْإِنسِ, men from the mankind, يَعُوذُونَ بِرِجَالٍ مِنَ الْجِنِّ, seeking refuge. With whom? With men from the jinn. So the jinn has got men. That means the jinn has got men and what? Women. Same like a human being got men and women. And not only that, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He spoke about them and He said that some of them they are like us Muslims, some of them they're what? Kuffar. So we have, even among the Muslim sects, so we have Salafi jinn, Sufi jinn, Ikhwani jinn, HT jinn, the same thing as a human being we have in the jinn. And each one will help his own follower. He will be with his own follower. So you have jinn listening to, Sufi, Sheikh. You have a jinn which is listening to. But we're not able to know if, for example, we had read Quran and somebody's possessed, and then we talked to the guy and he said, I'm a Salafi jinn. And we're not really there to be investigating whether you're Salafi or not Salafi. Okay, and then we'll ask him, are you from the SP or? That's going to be ridiculous. So we're not allowed to ask these questions. But I'm saying this because I've heard it on the tape. I'm just asking, yes, I'm Salafi, go to this such Sheikh, Ladim Badawi, and listen to his lectures. The man is talking, like he's a jinn is talking. How do we know? We're speaking with someone who's what behind the barrier. We've heard about as well, and I have seen, Sister what she came that she said that the jinn is making intercourse with me. And she is getting ready for him and beautifies herself and he comes. Now are we allowed to say now that there is a ghusl on him? That's another thing. Same thing with a male making intercourse with a female jinn. We say that this will happen, but we cannot really implicate any rules upon it unless we see something like, for example, the ejaculation. But just like simply that I feel that there was jinn. How can you feel? That's a jinn. There is as well pregnancy from the jinn. Well, this is empty. We don't see anything. It's empty. Like they say, for example, a womb which has been expanded, but there's nothing in there. So what we're going to say that when the air is going to go, we're going to tell her 40 days, sister, for postnatal blood. There is no blood. We only apply the rules when we see what? Facts. We don't say it is not possible, it is impermissible. There's not supposed to be a connection or a communication, I should say, between the jinn and mankind. But we are obligated to believe that they are part of the ghaib. And we talked about Imam al-Qadianis, yes, that they don't believe in the jinn. Yes, we talked about that or not? No? Because I've done many classes. I don't know which class I've done this and which class I've done that. In that group, no? Oh. It hasn't. I've talked about it recently, but I don't know which class. So sorry for confusion here. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He had talked about the jinn in Surah Al-Jinn, that to tell us that those ones you can't see them, إِنَّهُ يَرَاكُمْ هُوَ وَقَبِيلُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا تَرَوْنَهُمْ. The shaitan, he sees you from what? Him and his clan were from places you can't see them. You can't see them. The only thing that we could just say Bismillah and then there would be a barrier. But without that you could be seen. I can't see him. Yet I'm stronger than him if I put my hand with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I communicate with Allah, I'm stronger than him. If I seek refuge in Allah, then I will have protection against the shaitan. Now this jinn, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created him, min al-jinnati wan-nas, it is part of the belief in the ghaib, which Allah spoke about in Surah Al-Baqarah. Alif Lam Mim, ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب. First thing that Allah had praised those muttaqun, pious people, by saying that the ones who believe in the ghaib. Now those Qadianis, they don't believe in the jinn. And that is why the scholars who said who is believing in the Qadiani Aqidah is not a Muslim. Because of their concept, they don't believe in what? In the jinn. Because the jinn is part of what? Of the ghaib. And part of the ghaib is the belief in the day of resurrection. And from the sixth pillar of Iman, and tu'mina billah, al-yawm al-akhir. Al-akhir part of the ghaib. Have to believe in the ghaib. Now their interpretation of the jinn is to be different type of human being. That's how they interpret the jinn. Different type of what? Human being. Now, all their interpretation, they twist it. They come to the hadith. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is there, authentic. They come and say it's either not authentic or they twist the meaning of it. The hadith is so many. So when the Prophet ﷺ, he had been praying, and while he was praying, he did like this. And when he did like this, companions behind him were watching. And then it's like wrestling. So the Prophet, after he finished, the companion asked, Messenger of Allah, we've seen you doing this. I think we're asking, is this part of the prayer now? I mean, we're going to do prayer like this now at the moment. So the Prophet said, no. The shaitan wanted to cut off my prayer. Break off my prayer. So I held it. That means, and he said, I choked him. حتى وجدت برد لسانه على يدي. Until I found the coldness of his tongue on my hand. So he's got a tongue, he's got saliva, and he's got all of that. And where the Qadian is going to go from this hadith? So what is he doing now? Different type of human being was doing all this? He said, the jinn. Okay, so I held him, and I choked him. Till he's, you know when you choke? What happens? Your tongue. So he came where? Onto his, came onto his hand. And I felt it, he said. Had it been for the supplication of my brother Sulaiman alayhi salam, I would have done what? I would have tied him up in the pillar of the masjid. So that the children of the Medina come and what? Play with him. Just play with what? Kick him and hit him. But had it been for the supplication of my brother Sulaiman. What is the supplication of my brother Sulaiman? Prophet Sulaiman, he made 3 supplications. 2 being fulfilled. Prophet, we hope the 3rd one has been fulfilled for him as well. One of them, هَبْ لِي مُلْكًا لَا يَنْبَغِي لِأَحَدٍ مِّن بَعْدِي. Oh Lord, give me a dominion which is for me alone and not suitable to anybody else. Not to be to anybody else. That dominion has been given to him. The rule, leading the jinn, leading the wind, is underneath his command, the wind. And the jinn. And they could make something that, you need years to make it in what? Click of a finger. And the communication with the animals. All of that is for Prophet ﷺ. So that's the supplication. Because of that, Prophet ﷺ, he couldn't make a control of the jinn. Because they are under control of whom? The Prophet ﷺ. Second one is that حكما يصادف حكم Allah. The rule which synchronizes with the rule of whom? With Allah. And what is that hukum? Anybody wants to tell me? Come on. What's that rule? Judgment happened? I'm sure you know it. Yalla. Allah musta'an. Right. This is two sisters. They came with a child between them, each one claiming, this is my baby. They went to Prophet Dawood, he's the father of Sulaiman alayhi salam. Prophet Dawood, he had ruled that this belongs to the older. Why the older? Because she is more likely to be truthful. But then they went to Prophet Sulaiman, and that's when Sulaiman alayhi salam, he asked Allah Azza wa Jalla that judgment which will coincide with the rule of Allah. That means it's like Allah had ruled. So straight away he takes the baby, bring the knife, and he's about to kill him. Doesn't want to kill him. So the younger sister, she says, it's not mine, it's hers. So Prophet Sulaiman, he said, it's yours then. Why? Because that mother, which is the younger sister, soon as she saw that the baby is going to be killed, she would say that I would rather have my baby taken by my older sister rather than to have him killed. It's not mine, it's hers. He said, no, it's yours. It's the third one, any person going from his house, heading towards Jerusalem, Beit al-Maqdis, intending only to pray in it, that his sins will be wiped off just like he's newly born, like his mother has given birth to him. He said Allah had given him two, and we hope that He gave him the third. We hope. None of them. We hope that Allah has given him. Just like Hajj, when you go to Haram, make Hajj, all your sins be what? Wiped off. You go to pray in, but now pray in Jerusalem is not allowed. Because it's under the control of non-Muslims. It's not allowed to go to Jerusalem. So if you have a package to go to Jerusalem and then to Hajj, don't do that. It's not under the control of the Muslims, and you don't want to be humiliated. Okay? So no, go to the Jerusalem until Allah wills for it to be liberated. You know that Jerusalem had passed by eras of, under the rule of number of nations. It was under the Romans until Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu had liberated that land. And in the year 15 after Hijrah, he liberated that land. And then after that, it's being taken away from the Muslims. And Salah ad-Din Ayyubi, he liberated the land again. And then it's been taken away, 1948, by the Jews until today. And there will be a liberation, but there will be the final liberation. This is the liberation of Al-Mahdi. Sorry about that, let me just take off this phone. Now, coming back now to our hadith, which is about the jinn. I said to you, when we talk about the jinn, we fly. Khawla binti Hakim. Now,
Allah's Messenger ﷺ said, whoever settles at a place and says, I seek refuge in the perfect words of Allah from the evil of what He created, nothing will harm him until he departs from that place of his. Sahih Muslim, there's a footnote about the creation.
Go on, please.
He's saying, from the evil you created is because Allah created everything. Good and evil, but evil is not attributed to Him because His creation of evil is due to a wisdom which entails something good.
Right.
As for seeking refuge with the creation, then there is particularization in this. For if it is with the creation in that which they do not have power to help, then this is polytheism, and from that is seeking refuge with the dead and buried, as they can neither benefit nor harm. So seeking refuge in them is major shirk, regardless of whether it is done at their graves or far away from them. As for seeking refuge in the creation in that which they have the ability to do, then that is permissible.
Right. Prophet ﷺ, he said, Man nazala manzila, he who had come to a place, And this place is a place which is not inhabited. It's an empty cave, a hole for the very first time, a place which is, you come out of the car, you want to see it, and you want to stay there, you don't want to stay, you just want to enter it, then you say the following. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات. I seek refuge in the words of Allah which are complete. Words of Allah here, kalimat. It is, kalimat means few. They're not, which we call in Arabic, jam'u qillah, from 3 to 10. Kalimat. أعوذ بكلمات الله. Now the link between this hadith, the chapter title, is that we know that the title is to seek refuge only in Allah, but if you seek refuge in other than Allah, then it is what? Shirk. So here, Prophet Allah is telling us to seek refuge in what? In the words of Allah. And the words of Allah, are they created? Or they are an attribute of Allah? They are, just like the Quran, an attribute for Allah. You don't say Allah creates His own words. Allah spoke His words. So His words from His attribute. Now seek refuge in Allah from the words of Allah. Those words of Allah, which has been under the word in Arabic, kalimat, jam'u qillah, plural of little, yet they are so many. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke that in Surah Al-Kahf and also in Surah Luqman. قُلْ لَوْ كَانَ الْبَحْرُ مِدَادًا لِكَلِمَاتِ رَبِّي. Say to them, O Muhammad, that if the ocean was the ink to the words of my Lord, then لَنَفِدَ الْبَحْرُ قَبْلَ أَن تَنْفَدَ كَلِمَاتُ رَبِّي. The ocean would finish, yet the words of Allah will not finish. وَلَوْ جِئْنَا بِمِثْلِهِ مَدَدًا. Even if we were to bring just like that ocean again, full of ink, that will finish, yet the words of Allah will not finish. And also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in Surah Luqman, verse 27, وَلَوْ أَنَّمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ مِنْ شَجَرَةٍ أَقْلَامٍ فَالْبَحْرُ يَمُدُّهُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ سَبْعَةُ أَبْحُرٍ مَا نَفِدَتْ كَلِمَةُ اللَّهِ. That is, وَلَوْ أَنَّمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ, if anything on the earth, whatever is on the earth, whether it's from the trees or from the tree to make pens, and also the ocean is being linked to 7 oceans to give the ink to those pens. مَا نَفِدَتْ. The words of my Lord will not finish. So the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are uncountable. And the tammat, meaning the perfect words, here the tammat means because they are truthful and also they are just. Because of those two things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا. And the words of your Lord have been completed with truthfulness and justice. مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ. I seek refuge in Allah, the words of Allah, the perfect words of Allah, from the evil that He created. The footnote that the brother had read, that Allah creates evil and good. And we have to say that Allah creates the darkness and the light. We don't have like those people who believe that there's a creator for the darkness, creator of the evil, and creator for the good. But Allah, when He creates the evil, He is not evil in His creation. The evil is in the created thing. But in His creation to the evil is a hikmah. And without that evil around, I don't think life will go on. There will be no life. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He had created that evil for a hikmah. And today, for example, I was in the garage fixing my car. And I was talking about this issue. And I was saying to a brother who's called me, I said to him, such and such brother of yours, he came to the shop, to the garage, and the garage man is listening, and to fix this guy, his car is always something wrong with it. I said, well, it's not good for him, evil, but good for the guys. MashaAllah, good for the guys. He said, Ya astaghfirullah. I said, what is astaghfirullah? It's true. It's very bad for him to come every time because his car is no good. But it's good for you. I know you're not asking for his car, directed to be, naked, but don't you say, oh, rizq. Oh Lord, rizq. What do you mean? And he's, oh Lord, explode my engine. Oh Lord, make something in his car. Oh Lord. That's what he's saying. But you're not saying it directly. Because if I don't have an exploded engine, something wrong with his axe, something wrong with his tire, nobody's going to come to you got to close your garage. You realize now what I'm talking about. So what is evil for me is good for you. What is no good for me is considered money for your pocket. As I said, this is what is the sharru laysa ilayk. And that's what the footnote was about. That is, the evil is not to be attributed to Allah. That means Allah, when He creates evil, is not evil. But when we do evil, there is evil. So, let's talk about now the created things. There are created things which are good, complete. There are created things which are evil, complete. And there are things which are good and complete. Good and evil in them. From those things which are evil completely is the hellfire. Not the fire, the hellfire. Because the fire is got good and evil. Good if you cook your food in it, and evil if you burn somebody with it who doesn't deserve to be burnt. And haram to burn anyone, a person, human being, even an animal. So the hellfire is complete evil. As for the complete good, that from the creation, we talk about, for example, the angels, complete, there's no evil in them. Also the prophets. As for whatever has got evil and good, that's us. Apart from the prophets, of course. Us, we have good and evil in them. And also the jinn, animals. So all of that. So when you seek refuge in Allah from the evil of His creation, that means evil of what He had created as an evil, whether it's evil pure, whether it's have evil and good in it. But not the one which has got only good. He says here, لَمْ يَضُرُّهُ شَيْءٍ. Nothing will happen to him حَتَّى يَرْحَلَ مِنْ مَنْزِلِهِ ذَلِكَ. Nothing will harm him, that's by the will of Allah, until he leaves his place that he was in it. Right? لَمْ يَضُرُّهُ شَيْءٍ. Now this is, it might be, will not be the case, but if you believe in it, then it will take place. So if you put your hand on the pain and you say Bismillah, 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 أعوذ بعزة الله وقدرته من شر ما أجد وأحاذر 7 times, Allah's Messenger, He said that the pain will be gone in order to be belittled. But if it did not go, it's another two. Either your death is coming, or it's inevitable, or it is that there is something there had delayed it. Don't know what is delayed. Could be you haven't got 100% reassurance this plus supplication will. And there's something there in the supplication had made it delayed. And that's when the Prophet ﷺ had a person, he said, my brother has got something wrong with his stomach. He said to him, Astihi asal. Give him what? Honey. So he went to give him honey. Came back, Messenger of Allah, still got stomachache. Said, give him honey. 3rd time he came. Messenger of Allah still got constipation. Said, give him honey. Sadaq Allah wa kadaba batnu akhik. Allah is truthful and the belly of your brother is lying. He's lying by saying it's constipation. So he came in the 3rd time and he was okay. That means Allah is truthful. I said, give him honey, let's say, give him honey. Honey will cure him, inshallah. So this is what as well, when you, for example, you recite Fatiha on somebody, you recite the Ad'iyah, the Dua al-Ruqa, sometimes it does not really fulfill. It depends. But if you believe in it, it will take place. We had studied together, if you remember, in Al-Adab al-Mufrad, a hadith from Aban ibn Uthman, that Uthman, he said, that I heard the Prophet ﷺ, he says, he who says, in the morning and in the evening, La ilaha illallah. What is that? No, Bismillah alladhi la yadurru ma'a ismi shay' fil ard. You forgot it already, huh? Bismillah alladhi la yadurru ma'a ismi shay' fil ard wa la fis sama' wa huwa as-sami'ul 'alim. 3 times. In the morning, 3 times. in the evening, nothing will harm him. The person who said it, he had, what is it called? The half of his paralysis, yes? Half is his
Faith.
yeah, full of phalange now.
Cerebral palsy.
Which is, we call it the like a stroke, isn't it? It's a stroke. Type of stroke. Half of his body is not functioning. So when you said that, the person who was listening from this is looking at him. He was really looking at him. So he's telling us that if a person said this in the morning and the evening, nothing will harm him. So he's looking at him. He said, "Don't look at me. On that day when I struck with this, I did not say it." SubhanAllah. On that day when I was struck with this, I did not say it. That means he used to believe that every time he says in the morning, in the evening. So I, for example, when I go in my car, I say this in the morning even. It's a coincidence. Say it in the morning, say it in the evening. Allah. And if I take something, a smash or a hit or something, and I remember, did I say it this morning or did I not say it? Did I say it this evening or did I not say it? Always remember to say these words. Bismillah la yadurru ma ismihi shay'un fil ardi wala fis samaa'i was sami'ul alim. 3 times. I said, not really that bad, not really that long. Also, when the person he's approaching his wife, Bismillah, Allahumma jannibna shaytan, wa jannib shaytana ma razaqtana. Now, you might, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, if Allah had ordained to be a child, then the shaitan will not harm him. But sometimes you find the child, this child of yours grown up to be a shaitan himself. Do you understand what I'm saying? A'udhu billah. So, what happened here? Was I not really mukhlis in my dua when I was doing it, or what? There is something there. There is something there. And if you forgot, and you got the habit of saying it, don't worry about it. This person being meant to be forgiven. No problem about that. Okay? Bismillah. Allahumma. And I'll tell you what. Bismillah is the key for all du'as. Bismillah. In the name of Allah. Now the isti'adah with other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, let's talk about now, the isti'adah with other than Allah. I mean, isti'adah, and seek refuge in other than Allah, which is permissible. We do have number of stories, which is the woman who was from Bani Makhzum. She had stolen, and the Prophet ﷺ brought her. So she sought refuge by Salama. Salama radiallahu anha, she wanted to protect her, and she said that Messenger of Allah don't implement upon her the cutting of the hand, amputation. He said, the Prophet of Allah, by Allah, if Fatima is to cut off her hand, if Fatima is to steal, I would have cut off her hand. If Fatima to steal, I would have cut off her hand. Also, this is Sahih Muslim, by the way. Also, we find inside Imam Muslim with the authority of Abu Mas'ud that he used to hit his slave. So the slave used to say, I seek refuge in Allah. That means she sheltered in Allah. And he used to hit him. So he said, A'udhu bi Rasulillah. I seek refuge in the Prophet of Allah. So he let him go. So the Prophet ﷺ said, by Allah. Allah is more capable on punishing you than you punishing him. And there's nothing to expiate what you have done except by setting him free. What is the proof from this? That when he said, I seek refuge in the Prophet of Allah did not say shirk. You understand that? He did not say what shirk. Because of beating that child, that slave, the only solution for that is to set him free, to expiate what you have done. Also, to seek refuge in the Bayt al-Haram. We have the Sahih of Muslim 5131 and 5134, where the people will seek refuge in the Haram. Seek refuge means that shelter, protection. And then the army will be swallowed by the earth. Will be swallowed, by the earth. Khasf al-Jaysh. Right, so this is as well to show you it is allowed to seek refuge in other than Allah, as long as that person is capable of giving you refuge. Now coming to the issues. Issue number 1, Tafsir Ayat al-Jinn, explanation of the ayah in Surah al-Jinn. Also, the second one, it is from the shirk, that is to make, so seeking refuge, make isti'adha than Allah Azza wa Jal, as we have explained. Number 3 is the taking the hadith as to be proof that Allah's words to be not created. So when we talk to the Mu'tazila, who say that Allah's Quran is to be created, we say, look here, Prophet Allah said, A'udhu bi kalimatillah, that we seek refuge in Allah's words. So Allah's words is not created, because seeking that in the created is shirk. Number 4 is the excellence of this dua, even though it is short dua. So seeking this is the excellence of this dua. Which dua are we talking about? A'udhu kalimat al-tamma sharri ma khalaq. This is very important. Remember that. A'udhu kalimat al-tamma min sharri ma khalaq. طيب. Number 5, that anything that will have benefit in the dunya, for example, preventing evil to reach the person or bringing good, it does not indicate it is not from the shirk. So he's talking about here that even though that this is having a benefit from it, it doesn't mean it's not shirk, because sometimes you have benefit out of the sihr, magic, but magic is haram. So those people used to seek refuge in the jinn, and this is shirk. But sometimes this jinn, well, okay, we'll give them protection because they sought protection from us. But it's haram. And also a person who is prostrating to a person who's a king in order to give him money. Prostration to that king is haram, but yet he got money out of it. So it doesn't mean that you get benefit from something, it makes it what? Permissible. Right. In the hadith also, that the sharia, it will not invalidate anything from the pre-Islamic dates unless it is something haram in it. So in the Jahiliyyah, they used to seek refuge in the jinn. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say to them, don't seek refuge. He said to them, seek refuge, but in the words of Allah. Quraysh used to say, wal-Ka'bah, by the Kaaba. He did not say, don't say wal-Ka'bah. He said, well, say what? Wa-Rabbil-Ka'bah. Add that. Just that addition, it makes it what? So this is what the correct way for a da'iyah, in order to take them away from haram, is to bring them a substitute which is closer to what they've been doing. Okay? So, the Prophet of Allah, he had directed the Ummah in a number of ways, that what you're doing, just add this and it makes it halal. Don't abolish this, add this, it makes it halal. Right. We have a number of examples for this, and I think we have come to the end of the chapter. This is the last thing that was from the issues. Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, he says, from the good ways that the person, the da'i, should be on, that when he had blocked from the people something which is evil, he must upon him to open a door which is good to them. And you should not say it is haram and be quiet, but you should say haram, but do so and so which is permissible. And he gives an example from the Quran. I would say even more than that, to add to Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, that the Prophet of Allah, he taught us the da'iyah is not just to stop saying haram, but also to add things to to the haram. So this is haram and haram. As the Prophet ﷺ, when he was asked about the water of the sea, he said, this is the pure water, because they said to the Messenger of Allah, when we travel on the sea and we have our water, if we use it for our wudu, we don't have it for drinking. He said, use the ocean water for validity, because he said, can we use the ocean water? He said, Messenger of Allah, yes, it is not just pure for wudu, but also whatever is in it is halal to eat. Now Prophet was not asked about whether this is halal to eat whatever is in the sea or not, but this is, as I said, to teach the da'iyah to learn from this. Now, I guess we can finish and go to the uncle. Yes, uncle. You have uncle what? Yes. Yeah.
Whenever they come, they ask me a lot of questions about Islam. And I just wanted to ask you, how do I teach them in simple terms what is meant by the word nazar, vow, and oath with examples, please?
Question is to teach the kids, which are teenagers, 13, 14, about the nether and all of that. I would say teaching the kids take stages, uncle. So I would not go to the nether until I have laid the foundation of the Tawheed. And the Tawheed, I go with simple words. And I would not go to the complicated words. And I'll give an example. Prophet of Allah, he spoke to Ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Abbas. And he said to him, كلمات أعلمك. I'm going to teach you words. احفظ الله يحفظك. Keep Allah, Allah will keep you. Now, maybe an English person having the translation of keep Allah will keep you doesn't understand, but in Arabic, it's understandable. احفظ الله يحفظك. That means احفظ الله, fulfill His commands. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will fulfill what He promised you regarding fulfilling His commands. And then he said to him, إذا سألت فسأل الله. If you ask only Allah. وإذا استعنت فاستعن بالله. And if you are seeking help, then seek help from Allah. And this is to show him that those things that you should be directed to Allah, to ask Allah, to seek help from Allah, seek refuge in Allah, and keep Allah's commands, Allah will keep you. Then after that he said to him, say that if the whole ummah got together to benefit you with something, then they will not benefit you with anything except that Allah had already ordained for you. That to show you that why are you depending upon anything apart from Allah Azza wa Jalla? If all these people want to benefit you, they can't benefit you except for something Allah already ordained for you. Same thing, they want to harm you, don't worry about it. Allah will not permit that harm except that harm is been ordained upon you. رُفِعَتِ الْأَقْلَامُ وَجَفَّتِ الصُّحُفُ. Allah ibn Abbas, when he had heard these words, he's less than 10 years old. He's less than 10 years old. And each child, I will treat him different from another child. It's not, I would say, this is the 10 years old, and this is 11 years old. Some of the children, they are 10, but with the age of 2 years old. Some of them, the age of 10, they are the age of 10. Some of the age of 10, they are the age of, mashallah, 20. True or not? So each one I will treat him according to what he is. What is his mentality, and how he thinks, and how clever he is, and how much he can take. And bit by bit, uncle, slowly is better than giving it one go, because you don't want to bore the child. Best thing, uncle, for the children is the stories. So if, for example, the vow, if I want to advise the vow, I would say, those people I'm going to question, make a vow by Al-Badawi. Is it halal or haram? Many of them have different answers. Now we know that the story of Wad, wa Suwa', wa Yaghuth, wa Ya'uq, wa Nasr. People at the time of Nuh alayhi salam, given the story, used to make a vow with those people. And those according to the Prophet ﷺ, Sahih Bukhari, from the authority of Abdullah ibn Abbas, that those 5 names belong to 5 asma'u rijal salihin, 5 righteous men. Who said that? Prophet of Allah. They are righteous. Wad, Suwa', Yaghuth, Ya'uq, Nasr. At the time of Nuh alayhi salam. Yet, Allah's Messenger had said that those people who are seeking shelter with them, because they're dead already, or making vow with them, they are making shirk. So which is better? A person whom we don't know whether he's good or not. Jilani, we don't know he's good or not. We don't know. But those 5 names, we know they are what? They are good, pious. Yeah, they are shirk to make vow to them or to seek shelter with them. Then what do you think children seeking refuge in? Now, over there. Yeah.
What's the definition of the oath and the vow? How you distinguish between them?
In Arabic, we have nadr, halaft. By Allah, alayya nadrun lillah. So the oath, the nadr is an oath plus. So every nadr is an oath, but not every oath is a nadr. Is that okay? That's a link. Every nadr is an oath, but not every oath is a nadr. So it's an oath plus. Now, sorry I'm putting my sweets while I'm talking to you because of my cough. Hopefully this will relieve me from the chest cough. Now, okay, uncle, I will do that. So fisherman with plus with this because somebody gave me sweet. Is that you, uncle? It's you. Okay, good. This is Shakil, uncle. He just gave me that sweet. Okay, now.
What do we say
No.
in my house? You said, could you say that in your house when you enter in your house?
No, you don't say that in your house. From the etiquette of saying to the house, you can't say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, or if you don't have anybody, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. So you don't come to a house of yours and you say, if you don't have it from the supplication of dua or entering your house. And you said the Imam al-Qurtubi, which I did not bring from the Shaykh either Qurtubi is talking about a house which is separate from his own house, like a shed or whatever, he went inside it, or an orchard that belongs to him, that he does not really come to it. That's okay, you could go to it. But a house which is inhabited. So he said that a scorpion, and we don't have scorpion living in our houses. Do you understand that? So it must be like a land which is open or something like this. And I brought better than the Qurtubi. I brought the hadith, which is better than Imam Qurtubi, seeking refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by now. إطلاقا. تفضل.
Sheikh, the Christians say that Isa bin Maryam alayhi salam is the word of Allah and the rule, the spirit from Allah. How do we reply to them if we just say that the word of Allah is not created? They say that to mean that he says it's from Allah because of his word.
This sweet one. Now I'm repeating something really it's powerful. Question is, Isa alayhi salam. Christians are saying he's the word of Allah, he's the spirit from Allah. Thank God they say this. Alhamdulillah. So they say the word of Allah. But they don't stop here.
Yeah.
They say it's the word, and the word became what? God. Became flesh and flesh became God. And you saying that these Christians must be learned Christian, right, about our Aqidah. And they're saying, you see, it's a word, and you say the words of Allah is not created. We say that you are actually reading some and you don't want to read others. He is not the word of Allah. He says to them. He came out. He's وَكَلِمَةٌ مِّنْ. He came by the word of Allah, which is be. So it's not the word be. He is the creation after the be. So the creation came after the word. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lahu al-khalq wal-amr. Allah has got the what? The command and the creation. The command is be. And that is not creation. And the creation after the be. Not after the be, the wasp, the be, and after the be, the letter, after the be. Kun. After the be as an animal, okay? After the be. Be, and there he was. إنما مثل عيسى عند الله كمثل آدم خلقه من تراب ثم قال له كن فيكون. That's it. And he was. So I don't think these people would be convinced if you said that to them. Because they're maybe already programmed to go and reply back and rebuttal. So why should I waste my time? But if he wants to understand the haqq, subhanAllah. Because if they're saying like this, he is the word of Allah, which is being God, that means Isa alayhi salam is in between what? It's between the Quran, because the words of Allah is in the Quran. He's in between there. Where is Isa? It doesn't make sense. So, by the way, this is not my refutation. This is the refutation of the scholars. I just took some of the scholars what they have said to throw on that bottle that they have said. This is what some of it. But it's a bigger subject than this. But as I said, these people, they don't want to understand. They don't want to listen to the haqq. There's no time, no good for you to waste your time with it. Wallah. No. Further.
If you forget to do your adhkar during the periods that you're meant to, can you make it up?
Can you make up for the adhkar that you're supposed to make them up? Like for example, a person is supposed to make his adhkar in the morning, he forgot and he remembered in the asr time. No. But you could say them, but it's not going to make up because it's done already. Except if the proof said otherwise. Like the adhkar of the food. You say Bismillah. If you forgot while you are eating, not after you finish. After you finish, it's finished. While you're eating, Bismillah waliyah. In the name of Allah at the beginning and at the end. Okay? But this is to say it once you remember, not to deliberately say it like this. Because some people, they got the habit and they eat the food in Bismillah waliyah. Instead of saying Bismillah, they're saying the habit of what? In the name of Allah at the beginning. Why? This is the sunnah. It's not the sunnah. So it's to say Bismillah if you forgot to say that. Or you're going to be like that person who's torturing his shaitan. I'm trying to make him eat and it's nice food and then Bismillah and he's going to vomit. Torture him and then make him vomit. The hadith says he's going to vomit. No, but it does not really work like that. No. Follow. You could say that in the use. Huh? Oh! So when you come to the evening, yes, there is a narration, but when we have a narration that talks about more, we'll take the more. So one which is restricted and one which is not restricted. We look. So if it is not specifying, it's actually something to add, then we take which is a zaid for z, the one which is plus plus plus. So something said to us that this is in the house, we take it to the house. If it's being said to, if it's night and day, take it to the night and day. Okay, zaid for z. Wallahu a'lam. Any place. Any place. But when you have a place which is already, you know it, a place which you inhabited with the people, do you understand? Because why we restricted that? We don't have from the Prophet ﷺ and companions, when they enter the house, they say Bismillah. In Islam you say that dua. We have heard them saying Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum. Because the hadith of the Prophet, he said, he who enters his house, he says Bismillah, قال الشيطان لا مبيت. Yes? He enters his house and he says Bismillah on his food, he says لا عشاء, no bed, no breakfast. Yes? We don't have from the hadith who says أعوذ كلمات الله التام. Do you understand me? So he enters his house, this is the specific dua for that. And we don't have from the habits of the companions to say that every time they enter their own houses. Because of this, we said it in general. any place outside, any place, but it's not your own house that you enter. Wallahu a'lam. Something improved from my mind as well to add, but inshallah I come later on. Now, further. Last question.
Making dua, is it permissible to, for lack of a better word, is it permissible to sort of barter, but to sort of ask Allah to give you something so that you can do something else? So Allah, give me this so that I can go forward and do something else.
Oh Lord, I'm going to ask you to grant me a car so I could really go to such and such place.
So that I can, yeah, so give me this so that I can do more good, for example.
All right. I would say you could upgrade your dua. The upgrade of the dua is that how do you know that thing that Allah is going to provide you is going to be good for that thing that you are asking for? How do you know? Do you know? It could be badly from, isn't it? So what you want is that, for example, you want this particular thing. Oh Lord, provide me with anything that could really fulfill that for your sake. It would be better than asking for a specific thing that maybe there's other thing better than that. Alright? So put it in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ask, oh Lord, I ask you the best way of achieving this. Oh Lord, provide me with anything that you think you believe it is better for me, and because it could be better for you, not better for somebody else. Good, not good for you, good for somebody else. Good for somebody else, not good for you. Alright? والله تعالى أعلم وأسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن ينفعنا بما قد سمعنا وآخر